The Boston Celtics are in the middle of playing some impressive basketball as they won 5 straight games. They've also won 10 out of their last 12 games, and they have an overall record of 14-9, which has them at 3rd place in the Eastern Conference. But before winning 10 out of their last 12, the Boston Celtics, their overall record was 4-7, and they set as low as 10th place in the East. And a lot of people thought that this was how the Boston Celtics would look over the entirety of this season because of what they went through this past offseason. We know they moved on from Kristaps Porzingis and Jrue Holiday via trade, 2 good basketball players who played a huge role in them winning their championship in 2024. And then the icing on top of the cake was them being without Jason Tatum, who suffered an injury to his Achilles against the New York Knicks in last year's playoffs. And it hasn't been officially ruled that Jason Tatum will miss this entire season, but we know at least he's going to miss a huge chunk of it. So because of these factors right here, a lot of people thought that this would be more of a gap year for the Boston Celtics. But the way that they've been playing on this recent stretch and how they've heated up, they've completely flipped that narrative on its head. And it's not a fluke. They're not just beating weak teams during this hot stretch, but they've beaten some of the teams in the Eastern Conference that were supposed to be more confident with the Boston Celtics being without Jason Tatum, and then moving on from Kristaps Porzingis and Jrue Holiday. When we look at them beating the likes of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we look at them beating the Detroit Pistons, they beat the Orlando Magic, and in their most recent win, they beaten the Toronto Raptors, a team that has gotten off to a very hot start to begin this season. So the Boston Celtics, they've been racking up some quality wins in their conference that put that narrative to bed that this is going to be a gap year for them. So we look at what they've been doing to heat their season up. I think they've done some small things that have really led to some big results in their win column. And the biggest quote-unquote small adjustment that the Boston Celtics have made so far this season was simply inserting Jordan Walsh into the starting lineup. Because since the Boston Celtics have done that, they have a record of 10-2. And this isn't just some coincidence. He's actually on the basketball court, impacting the game at a very high level, and is starting on the defensive side of the ball. And we look at Jordan Walsh, he's the prototypical size for a lockdown NBA defender. He stands at 6'6", and he looks so much taller because he has a ridiculous 7'3" wingspan. And this is a guy that's been on the Boston Celtics for a couple of years now, but he didn't crack the rotation because their team was so damn good. But during those 2 years, Jordan Walsh, he was able to study one of the better defenders in today's game, Jrue Holiday, a guy that has made plenty of all NBA defensive teams. And now that Jordan Walsh has a grand opportunity, he's displaying what he's been picking up since he's been observing and maybe even being mentored by Jrue Holiday, because he has showcased to us that he's a very versatile and a tenacious defender, because we've seen him pick up full court and we've seen him take on the assignment of guys like Donovan Mitchell, Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey. And we look at their most recent win during their 5-game winning streak, Jordan Walsh, he did foul out, but he showed that he can guard the likes of a Scotty Barnes as well. So while he's taking on these tough defensive assignments, he's also still a high energy guy. He's generating a lot of takeaways. He's going for those 50-50 balls, and he also gets offensive rebounds as well. So individually, I think Jordan Walsh, I think he's been very impactful as a basketball player for the Boston Celtics. And then inserting him to the starting lineup, it gives them more size with him and Jaylen Brown at those wing positions. And then they just get a starting lineup once again where they have 3 highly versatile defenders. When we look at Derek White, when we look at Jaylen Brown, and when we look at Jordan Walsh. So I think this could be something really good for the Boston Celtics going forward. So the individual impact of Jordan Walsh has been big time for the Boston Celtics, and there's some things that they've been doing as a team that has been really impressive to me. Now, we all know that the Boston Celtics, they're going to be really good at hitting their 3-point shots. They're number 1 in the NBA at 3-pointers made per game, and they're 9th in the NBA in 3-point field goal percentage at 36%. But there's 2 other team categories that really stood out to me. Their offensive rebounding, they're 5th in the the NBA in offensive rebounds per game, getting 13 of them per night. And I think when a team like the Boston Celtics can offensive rebound, that paired with their ability to knock down the three-point shot, it can be very devastating, because I don't think there's nothing more demoralizing than giving up an offensive board and then also giving up a wide open three-point shot. And then another area that they're excelling in is taking care of the basketball. And this goes really hand in hand with that offensive rebounding when we really think about it, because they're the best team in the NBA in terms of taking care of the basketball at just 12 turnovers per night. So with those 13 offensive rebounds, they're wiping away all of those turnovers. And then we add that on top of the steals that they're getting per game. They're putting themselves in prime position each and every night to win the turnover battle and to win the possession battle. So I think that has been big time for the Boston Celtics. And then also we just have their best players stepping up in more elevated role. When we start with Jaylen Brown, he's having a terrific season for the Boston Celtics. And this role that he's playing this season, it's a little bit different for him because he's always had Jason Tatum next to him. Jason Tatum is an Iron Man. This Achilles tear, this was an anomaly for a basketball player like him. So for these 23 games for Jaylen Brown to be playing the way that he's been playing so far this season for the Boston Celtics, he has been big time. 29 points per game, 4 assists a night to go along with 6 rebounds. And what makes it so impressive is that taking on this offensive role as the number one option, he's still being very ultra efficient. 49% from the field, 36% from the three-point line, and 78% from the free throw line. So Jaylen Brown has been exactly what the Boston Celtics have needed him to be, that offensive engine. And at the same time, he's still taking on tough defensive assignments. We look at Peyton Pritchard. He's taken on an elevated role for the Boston Celtics this year, and I think he's handled it really well, because going from the 6th man and playing with the starters, that's a big difference, because there's some guys that they're just thrive as a 6th man. You put them in the starting lineup, they don't give that same production. But Peyton Pritchard, with this opportunity, he's elevated his level of play. He's averaging 3 more points than he did last season, and the year isn't over. But so far versus last year, 14 points last year, 17 points per game this year, and he's shooting 45% from the field and 34% from the three-point line. So those numbers aren't too shabby for a guy that's taking on a completely different role than he had last year, playing with the basketball in his hands more and taking on more of an offensive responsibility, and then also just not having them guys around him that was generating some of those easy looks that he was getting, guys like Jason Tatum and Kristaps Porzingis. And then people don't realize, like, the combination of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, their ability to effortlessly get downhill constantly broke down the defense. So now they don't have that combination with JT and Jaylen Brown. And then also Kristaps Porzingis, he made life so much easier on the offensive side of the ball. His ability to stretch the floor and dominate in the post. So for Peyton Pritchard to step into that starting lineup and play against opposing team starters, and it seems like it's not really affecting him that much at all. Shout out to Peyton Pritchard. He's playing some good ball right now. Derek White, his role hasn't changed that much drastically. Still in the starting lineup, but he's having to play with the basketball in his hands a lot more, and he's having to get accustomed to not having that combination of JT and Jaylen Brown and then Kristaps Porzingis stretching the floor. We've seen Derek White get off to a little bit of a cold start to begin the season, but since November 26th, he's picking it up, especially with his three-point shot. We're seeing him start to have those games where he knocks down 4, 5, 6 three-pointers. So I think the Boston Celtics, putting Jordan Walsh into the starting lineup, they're emphasizing taking care of the basketball, offensive rebounding, and then they really still had some really good players left over from last season. Sam Hauser. They added Anthony Simons to the squad. They still have the big man, Kata. Please let me know if I pronounced his last name the correct way. And then we have Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, and Derek White, a really good collection of basketball players. So I'm not surprised with what the Boston Celtics are doing right now in this hot stretch where they're playing some really good basketball. You guys let me know what you think down in the comment section. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and then subscribe. Subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man. And that's curtains.